What's up YouTube, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Flywoo Explorer version 2.2, which is a 4-inch long-range quad. Alright, so starting off here, we're going to do an unboxing. As I cut open this box, you can see the quad for the first time. The antenna does come detached here, and the arm braces do not come installed. They are included, and the screws and braces are included, but there's no Allen key. I know GEPRC does include them. Here you can see there are two sets of propellers, one yellow or green and one black set. It's nice that it comes with two. I would prefer the yellow ones for greater visibility. There you can see I'm holding a lens protector. I'm not sure why you'd really want that. And here you can see the antenna tubes. It only came with one, even though my receiver needs two because it has two antennas. So as I could open this bag here, you can see they didn't include quite a lot of stuff, not as much as a company like GEPRC, which includes like a ton of extra screws and all the tools. Here you can see this prop card, shows you which way the props goes on. It's actually incorrect. There you can see this little support card. It comes with an extra battery pad, but there's already one that comes pre-installed, and the one pre-installed is a lot stickier. Like you could not even use a battery strap. Here's all the screws. The included battery strap's super sticky. If you just put a battery on that, you can hold the whole quad up without even using a strap. Here you can see the arm braces, and you're just going to put them on like that. You're going to take out the motor screws, and in that bag of screws, there is a set of screws that is labeled frame, and those are the ones that you're going to use to screw in the arm braces. That will improve durability a lot and hopefully keep you from breaking your quad. There you can see the battery strap that was included, and ending this, there's the propellers. Alright, so starting out with the overview here in the front, you can see the Caddx v2.2 camera. I do have the analog version of this quad. If you get the digital version, you'll have, I believe, a Caddx Vista, so the camera that comes with that. On the side here, you can see the Flywoo branded, and they have Dave C's name written on them, the NIN 1404 2750 kV motors. These aren't going to give you a lot of power, but they will give you the best, most efficient flight times. Here you can see on the sides, I did install these arm braces that did come with it. They didn't come installed. All you have to do to install them is these two screws will be screwed directly into the motors. You just have to take those out. And then in the bag, in the box, there'll be a bag that says frame, and it has screws in it. And those are the screws that you want to use to be able to actually screw into the motors. You just screw it in. Same thing for the other side. Another thing I noted was the prop direction card that they included was wrong. It would be correct if the motors were spinning the other way. I did note that other people said the same thing, but I assumed that they would have fixed it. Here, coming out the top, you can see there is a cable for wiring up a SMO 4K camera. I don't have one of those, so I probably will not be using that, but it's nice that they included that. It also comes with a very sticky battery pad pre-installed. It's very sticky, which is nice because if you're flying really far and crash, you do not want that coming out. Here you can see something I didn't like. They have this XT30 here, and it's just not a great connector. I haven't personally had any issues with it. To be more specific, people say that you can actually plug it in backwards and make enough contact, which will end up frying the whole thing, which would not be good, so just be careful of that. Here you can see the Flywoo branded version 2 GPS. I noticed this got lock very fast. By the time I even put my goggles on after I plugged it in, it had lock. It took about 2.5 minutes to get the minimum of 5 satellites. They also did include these TPU 3D printed motor covers. That way if you hit anything, it'll hit this instead of hitting your motors and breaking them. Since this quad isn't going to be crashed too much, I would hope that wouldn't be too much of an issue for you. Coming to the back here, you can see there is the Goku HM850, and this is the VTX that is 850 milliwatts, as the name would imply, and uses a UFO connector for this right-hand circularly polarized antenna. Also back here, you can see they did routing for this with the FrSky XM Plus, which you probably won't be able to see. Is tucked right up there above the flight control and ESC stack. Speaking of the flight control and ESC stack, they are the Goku GN405 Nano, which has a 13 amp ESC. And this quad does run on 4S voltage. Some people said that they're running it on 3S. I personally got pretty good flight times on 4S, and I got a lot better power on 4S, especially when I was fighting the wind. I noticed that with the 4S 850, so a pretty powerful configuration with this quad relative to if you're using a really long range pack. I was struggling. I was only getting like 30 miles per hour fighting the wind, which is enough, but if I was on 3S, that probably would not be the strongest. Motor post to motor post, they advertise 168 millimeters of distance between them, so 4 inches. And as I mentioned, they use a 16 by 16 stack. This probably should be fine since you're not crashing this, but that ESC is going to be working pretty hard for these motors, and if you do crash or hit the motor against something while you're flying, it might pop. It's just that much more likely since it is running a smaller ESC. The frame is obviously the Flywoo Explorer long range 4-inch frame, and this is the version 2 of the quad. So looking at their listings, this is the version 2.2 specifically, and the changelog is, first of all, they upgraded the VTX from a 450 unit to the HM850, which is an 850 milliwatt VTX. They upgraded that. Previously it was a 450, and considering I have FR Sky in here, it probably wouldn't have mattered either way, but going about 3,300 feet-ish today, I didn't have any interference. Granted, there wasn't anything between me and it. It was straight line of sight, but it did perform pretty well. While there was stuff in between me, there was a little bit of interference, but once again, for my control link, it did not prove any issue. It also has a microphone if you're someone who decides to fly with that. I don't really know why you'd want to, considering all you're hearing is the motors, but you could. In here, the stack has actually been upgraded to the Goku GN405 v1.3 stack, and what's cool about this is there's a couple of changes that are pretty beneficial. Starting out with, it has a lot more UARTs. This is beneficial because not really on this issue, it wasn't an issue for the analog version, any of the analog versions to my knowledge, but if you had one of the version 1 versions of this quad with a DJI, in order to get OSD, they need to use DisplayPort over UART, I believe is what it's called. And that means because they didn't have enough UARTs, because the flight controller they were using just didn't have very many UARTs, they had to do that over soft serial, which would cause your OSD to freeze up so you couldn't see things like your battery voltage or distance from home, or if your return to home is going in the right direction or right directions home. So that's a pretty good change. It also has a barometer, which is another quality of life thing that I think was very well. Watching some other videos about it, the barometer in the original version, it wasn't a barometer, it just used GPS, which, because of how GPS works, is very inaccurate. The barometer on this I found to be very accurate, and it updated incredibly quick since it was all just on this flight control stack. Another change is the Caddx Ratel 2 camera, which I find to be one of my favorite analog cameras. You can see you can get all the way from like 0 degrees up tilt to not that high. It's about this much up tilt, which is probably fine for this type of flying, but I would set it somewhere around there, so pretty high up. And the final change that they did in this version was the Flywoo GPS module, or the Flywoo version 2 module. This gives a lot faster locks, as I've experienced, and I noticed in some of the original ones in the analog version, they were only getting about 9 satellites while flying. With the DJI, they were only getting like 6, which is really an issue because 5 is the minimum before you lose your home point. So this, I got around 12 when I was flying, which is pretty good. I did notice the accuracy of the GPS was a little questionable at times, but generally when I was far out and I needed to rely on it, it did seem to work pretty well, and it got me back home when I fail-safed, so it seemed to work good enough. And finally, for receivers up here, as I've mentioned, I have the FR Sky XM Plus module, which is kind of tucked up there. This is also available in plug and play, so You can either add your own, or if you did get the digital version, which this isn't, but if you did, you could just use the DJI remote and connect it to your Cax Vista, which would be back here. It comes in ELRS, FrSky XM Plus, or Crossfire. So I believe the version 1 was available in FrSky R9, but the version 2, at least on the GetFPV listing I'm looking at, doesn't seem to be available in that controlling version. And finally, at the top here, as you guys can see, it did come with green or black propellers. I'd strongly recommend using the green propellers, as the green propellers are much more visible when you crash. I haven't actually crashed this thing so far, but if you did and you were, flying and you hit something and you crashed, you would be able to see these a lot more visibly, especially on like a contrasting background like this versus the black propellers. And I believe these are Jumpfan 4024 propellers. So these are pretty good pairing for this drone, and since they're bi-blades, they should give you the most flight time. I guess you could put tri-blades. These are T-mount propellers. Definitely install the screws. You could put tri-blades, but that kind of defeats the purpose. That would give you more power, but overall less flight time. Alright, so before we go out and fly the quad, the dry rate comes to 149 grams. With an 850 milliamp hour force, this will give you about 10 minutes of flight time, and it comes to 244 grams. This does barely keep you under that 250 gram limit. And with a 3000 milliamp hour 4S lithium-ion pack, it comes to 346 grams. This is the battery that's going to give you those nice 30-minute flight times on this quad. If you could please leave a like and comment on this video to show me how you feel about it, I'd greatly appreciate that. And if today's the day I've earned it, please go down and hit that subscribe button. And if not, continue watching the videos. I'll keep making them, and hopefully that day will come soon. Alright, so starting off, this flight was flown on a 850 milliamp hour 4S battery, so sub 250 grams, if that's important to you. I'm going to tell you before I even start, I did not fly this battery all the way down, and I did not try to fly it away to lengthen flight time. I was just trying to mainly test out the GPS, because I've never actually used a GPS on Betaflight or iNav, so I was kind of curious how well everything was going to work, and how all the distance is, and if everything was accurate, because before I went far, I just wanted to see if I fail safe, to like what would happen. So here you can see we're at around 350 feet, and there was a lot of wind today. It was around 15 miles an hour, and it's also very cold. Here you can see the home point arrow is a little bit off, and I have manually activated GPS rescue. This is not a fail-safe, so it's flying up to altitude, and you can see the arrow is a little bit off, but I think the GPS functions well enough for you to get back. That way you don't lose the quad. So I just want to test that real quick. See, now I'm flying back over to see where the arrow, like where it actually thinks the home point is. And as I get closer, it does start to realize where it is, and now it's pointing back towards, more towards where it actually is. And you can see that barometer that I was talking about earlier, that's upgraded in this version. You can see how it updates very fast, and it has, it's pretty accurate too. I noted it's based off of where you take off, not off of sea level, which is something interesting, and I would say better, because it gives you a better relative idea of how high you are. So you can see we're going pretty far. We're about 1,400 feet away here. I do have 11 satellites, which is pretty good for a quad of this size. Approaching 2,000 feet. Our battery is, I am fighting the wind pretty hard. At a pretty high throttle state, so 3.5 volts. And here you can see RX losses flashing. So I kind of just started, I freaked out a little bit, and I haven't flown Horizon mode in a while, so I wasn't like ready for how it was going to self-level the quad. And every time it would do a fail-safe, it would re-level. So I wasn't really that ready for that as I'm used to acro. But if you're flying long range like this, here you can see full throttle fighting the wind. It's going about 35 miles an hour. If you're doing long range, definitely do Horizon mode. That way, if you're losing video or if you fail safe, it'll self-level. That's a good thing. That way, you know that if you push the throttle up, you'll actually be going up instead of, if you flipped over and couldn't see. Here you can see I was just trying to get back, once again, because if you stop moving the sticks, it'll recenter, so I was not ready for that. And I'd say this performance was pretty good. It was very windy, especially considering my altitude was pretty high. It fought the wind pretty well, and our voltage is still doing pretty good, even though we're at 60% throttle. It is only a 13 amp ESC, so I guess that kind of makes sense that the voltage is staying pretty well, considering this is a lithium polymer battery, so the C rating is going to be a lot higher than the lithium ion battery, though the larger size of it would kind of make up for that difference anyways. There's just going to be overall less voltage sag. And as I said, I did not fly this pack all the way down, and it's very cold and windy, so you shouldn't really take these flight time readings. I'll do a separate video detailing the flight times that I was able to achieve flying slower. Here you can see I was testing the GPS rescue. Once again, this was not a failsafe, and I just stopped it because you can see it's pointing way towards the woods where I took off from the parking lot. So once again, if you're 3,000 feet away, it's going to fly you back enough in the right general direction that you'll be able to get your signal back, and it should all be good. But I would not trust it with precision landing and stuff, or to land at all, because how GPS rescue works is it'll just descend into the ground afterwards. So you would definitely not want to trust that and then hit the ground. Here you can see I did a measurement of how fast the GPS got locked. It already got locked before, but this is just how fast it acquired the satellites. And as you can see, it was extremely quick. At about 12 seconds I measured it. And here you can hear the self-powered buzzer. And you just turn it off by pressing the button. Alright, so overall the opinions of this drone are pretty high. I really enjoyed the longer range style flying. The only two things that I really have wrong with this quad are, firstly, the GPS function. I don't really have anything else to compare it to. It did actually seem to perform pretty well, but it's not something that you can trust to be very precise at all. It's more of a general direction. So if you're far away and you fail safe, it'll fly like mostly towards you. But once you regain the sticks, you should definitely take over, as at least in my testing, and because of the electrical noise that's very close to the other components in a 4-inch quad, the GPS did not perform super accurately. But I think for this type of quad, it would be good enough. And overall, I did enjoy the flight characteristics a decent bit. It wasn't very fast, but when the winds died down, I was able to go around 50 miles an hour with that big 3,000 milliamp hour battery. So I would say it's more than enough. And overall, it performed pretty well, and I'm definitely excited to go and take this out and fly this again tomorrow. It's a very, very good quad. The only other concern I would have is the speed. If you're fighting really strong winds, if you ascend to a higher altitude for better connection, it might not be powerful enough to get you going pretty fast, but as I said, it should be enough. The other things, I've not crashed this quad at all, or else I would have included a crash reel. So just be careful, because you really don't know about the durability. And I've seen people, if you crash at a lower altitude, there's a chance that could survive, but especially since you're carrying a larger battery, you're not going to want to crash this thing too much, because there's a pretty low chance it would survive. Even with the arm braces, I still won't trust this, and especially if you're hundreds of feet in the air and you fail safe and it falls, and the GPS rescue, the sanity checks fail and you just fall, it's not going to survive a fall from 100 feet plus. It just simply won't. So keep that in mind, to try not to get yourself in any situations with this quad that would happen. Alright, before you guys click away, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.